Hello, everyone, and welcome to Guildmaster Gaming. This time around, we are talking to cast and crew from coast to coast for the movie The Unseen, which is now available, I believe, on Tubi streaming service and getting international recognition. So we're going to start and have everybody kind of give a quick introduction of themselves, and I will call out the name and I'll let you guys give an introduction of yourself. And we're going to finish up with Jennifer, who is the writer of this film. So, Vincent, please start off for us.
Hey everyone, my name is Vincent Shade. I was the director and one of the producers on the film.
Sue,
Hey, I'm Sue Cremin, and I played Meredith.
and we have Mark.
Hi, I'm William Mark McCullough. I played Dan Olson in the film.
Great first name there, I got to tell you, uh, for the character. That is. Ryan,
Hi, I'm Ryan Atkins. I was the director of photography, one of the producers, and I handled a lot within post-production.
Rebekah,
I'm Rebekah Kennedy, and I played Millie.
and finally we end up with Jennifer.
I am Jennifer A. Goodman, and I am the writer and producer, and I played Lindsay, the sister. So, The Unseen is known as a horror thriller, and boy, is it. So the log line is a law student finds himself in a twisted web of murder and deceit brought on by a dark force from his past. So Tommy Olson, played by RJ Mitty, is our lead, and he sees things and he can't figure out what it is. But there are some deadly incidents that occur, and no one knows how and why they're happening. So he continues to kind of dig deeper to figure out why he's being sort of stalked by this dark force. And there's some stories that unravel that involve his family and history that he was not expecting. And it is definitely a big journey and a ride for a thrill.
So I'm going to start with you with one quick question. As a producer of this film, as I guess there are several here with us, how did you bring this crew together?
Yeah. So, well, Ryan and I have been working together for about, 8 years now. We launched Lakefront Pictures right around the time that we made Conrad series, which is a TV pilot that we created. And Vincent is someone that we met along the path and the journey, who was also making his own project as a director called The Letter. And he had reached out to, he was looking at some locations. We helped out with that. And then we became friends. He became a mentor, and he was our fearless director. And through Vince, we met some folks. I know a lot of people from other projects, and I've always admired Rebekah's work and have been wanting to work with Rebekah for years. It's something we've talked about. And so it wasn't hard when I was creating this project to kind of center a part around her, knowing that I wanted her to be attached to this. And a lot of the people Ryan knew and some folks that I knew from the acting world and, doing other productions. So it was really amazing how everyone came together. We were like a big family.
Okay. So we know how Ryan got involved. So we're going to jump back up to Vincent, since you're the director. Uh, what was it that grabbed you about this story to become the director? And what do you feel like you brought to the story as the person to be the main storyteller?
Oh, wow. Well, it was a completely a team effort. When I had spoken to Ryan and Jen on previous projects, they, brought the unseen to me at a time when they had a lot of the cast already solidified. And looking at the cast, knowing their capabilities, and researching some of their old works, and even recognizing some, like Mark, I had seen his stuff already. Very, very excited to jump on. And when they locked RJ Mitty, I saw a wonderful opportunity to work with an ensemble cast. Ensembles are something that they don't come along every day. A lot of times it's just a single lead and the supporting actors, but there was just a tremendous amount of talent on this film, and I just wanted to kind of surround myself with it. That being on the kind of crew side. On the story side, it was really compelling to tackle all the different elements that were in this film, because yes, there's horror, yes, there's thrills, but that's all kind of baked into to a story about secrets and lies and abuse, especially shining a light on things like bullying in school and shining a light on domestic violence. I thought was an important issues to discuss and to keep a spotlight on and to keep awareness on. So all of that kind of baked into an exciting story, like an exciting, thrilling story. How can I say no? It was great.
So you mentioned Mark down here. So Mark, you kind of play I guess one way to look at it would be the most villainous of the characters in a sense. Um, what drew you to the part, and what do you feel like you brought to that character?
I think I played him more like a firm but loving dad. I, here's the thing. Like, number one, I thought the script was really great. Uh, I have been a huge fan of RJ's for years, and getting the opportunity to work with him was something I wanted to jump at the chance to do. Um, I play a lot of characters who are not nice, and the way I look at that is, as actors, we're storytellers, and I don't judge characters. I simply try to bring those characters to life. And the way I look at it, the more powerful and compelling I can make the villain or the antagonist in the film, the more powerful the hero looks when they overcome me. So I never judge these characters. I try to make them real and true. And uh, I always try to approach these types of characters from a place of, in their own mind, they're the hero, right? No one moves through the world thinking they're a villain. Everyone thinks they're a hero in their own story. So I never walk into the set thinking, oh, today I get to play a villain. I think to myself, today I get to play a hero who maybe is doing things that aren't the best, but he's doing them for the right reasons.
Yeah, I really like that approach. I work with a bunch of writers, and that's one of the main things is we always teach people, new writers, is to remember the villain is the hero of their own story. So I think that's a great approach. So with what he said there, I'm going to jump up to Sue. Um, Knowing some of the conflicts that take place in the movie, Sue, do you feel like your character was able to overcome Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I think the question is, did she overcome herself? It's
Okay.
just she did this deed, this
Hmm.
thing, and in her journey, I never really thought about it as overcoming Dan. Like I thought about it as, the ways in life that we make choices and we live with our choices and we adapt and we move forward in a way, like Mark said, in a non-judgmental way. We do the best with what we have. But, certainly there were certainly things obviously about a relationship that were challenging. Um, but I think I think of it in a larger way, in a way he had something, Mark had something to deal with as well. So I don't know if I'm answering this directly, but I it was a challenging home environment, but I think that everyone did the best they could. And so I did as best as I could within that relationship, but I also had the knowledge that perhaps some of his actions, whether you would say they were right or wrong, were coming out of a place of protecting our family. I'm also being careful in the way I'm speaking of this because I don't know how much, we want to say.
Yeah, it's always tough to talk about the characters without giving away, too much.
Yeah, major plot points.
But it
I
sounds
think
like what you're
you
saying is,
danced around that very well, Sue. Very good.
Yeah,
yeah.
Very
So
good.
we'll just kind of put it this way, in a general term, is what you did is you came at it with the idea that here is a person that's kind of trapped in a particular situation, learned to adapt to it, and was moving forward the best she could within
Yeah.
that relationship for the final resolution.
Yeah, that's how I thought of it, much more coherently than I said it. But
No,
yeah,
not a problem. No, I mean it was all there. So now going on to Rebekah. Now, Rebekah, in this one, we've talked to you before, and people might recognize you. This one, though, you had a not quite of a as a forefront of a role. So when this one, What did you feel that you were bringing to your character and how to present her?
That's a great question. Well, I thought when I first read the script, I was like, ooh, it'll be fun to be kind of spooky. It's always fun to be, not, I mean, she's kind of seen sort of as a villain because she's making all this stuff happen. But of course, like, Mark beautifully said, and Sue beautifully said, and you said, is that, she's, again, without trying to give anything away, doing what she needs to do that feels justified, right? She feels definitely justified in her actions. And I thought, doing some wire work would be really fun. Working with the rain was not fun. But we do things that we have to do to get to, we feel stronger as actors after the end of the day. And I feel like I hoped to bring I don't know, like, what does the redemption look like? What is, if this was a real situation and someone that had something horrible happen to them that caused them to um, die, or someone made them, killed them. I don't know. I'm trying not to like give too much away, but it's so hard.
You're doing great.
And you had the chance to come back. Like, what would you do? And obviously she didn't make the best of choices, clearly. But there's also something about at the end about what does the second chance look like, and what is giving a character a chance to like kind of find that redemption in there, which I think RJ does. And even though there's horrible things that happen without it, so within it, so that was kind of my approach, and it just having some fun too with being the spooky character as well. That makes
And
sense.
if I can say just one more time, and I will not stop saying it, I'm so sorry about the rain. That was a tough day, This young lady
Yeah.
was able to stand in ice cold rain in the middle of the night and just endure. And it was a tremendous effort that she was able to accomplish. And, originally rain wasn't written in the script, and it ended up becoming this, it ended up taking on this whole life, like a presence, like
Identity.
kind of like the barrels and Jaws.
Mhm.
Barrels show up, all of a sudden you're sensing danger in a shark, even though it's just a couple of barrels. So here we were able to kind of drop rain, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait a second, she's
Something's
around.
happening.
There's
Yeah.
something spooky about to happen. So that rain is like so important as a story device and as like a horror vehicle, but for we had to put her in it to really sell it. So Rebekah just I mean just hats off to you, Rebekah. Well
No,
done.
thank you.
Well
And
It
I'll
was
say
funny.
also, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it was funny. RJ was, we were just kind of ribbing each other, and he's like, "Oh, it can't be that bad, like, like suck it up, or whatever." And then he got it in it, and he was like, "I'm sorry, everything I said, I take it back."
yeah.
That was horrible.
Yeah, that was tough. It was tough.
I
Sorry,
I
go
can
ahead.
sympathize with you. I was on a crew that I was working with on a film this past January, and we were 9 hours in the cemetery, and it rained all day.
Ooh,
Ooh.
So
ooh.
I know
Okay, so
what it's like. I can feel
know.
for you there.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think the hardest thing for this was like it wasn't like normal rain. It wasn't like rain from the sky, right? It was
Yeah.
rain that we created from a fire hose, and then they
Right.
just put it up in the air and had it come down. Which so then it's like ultra cold because of obviously putting out fires, and then it's pelts a lot harder than it should.
Yeah,
And
it's
also, like
torrential.
that's what you have to be able to see it on screen, right? Normal rain you can't see if it's just like raining. So all those elements. But at the end of the day, you're like really proud that you did it, So that's like one of those things.
Okay, so let's pull this around to you, Brian, since we haven't asked you
All right.
in particular. You're the director of photography and you're dealing with these type of issues. But as you went through this, kind of getting together the scenes and how they look, was there a particular scene that after you shot it just went, wow, that is a one we are definitely I want to keep?
There are so many that were they presented their challenges, and then the cake turned out better than we had anticipated. It's hard to one in particular was one where Rebecca was kind of describing she has a bit of a levitation scene, this happens to be in the final part of the film, in which I can only give so much information about, but we tried 1,000 different ways to make things happen the way that we wanted them to. So we were working with visual effects departments and stuff like that. But I would say that all that work that we'd put into that, we were pretty darn happy with that. That's one. We had a shot in a hallway where literally just camera upside down. Just something as so simple as that. Sometimes it's the simplest solutions that create the best effects. Sometimes I overthink, and people in my position always tend to overthink because we're always just trying to make walk on water. It seems like. But that was a simple solution in a hallway, just camera upside down, a good horror effect, but it definitely worked for the scene. So those are two scenes that turned out much better than what we had originally planned, and those happy accidents are always good to experience.
I will say one thing about that camera flipping and going upside down. It does give that element going, oh, here's the change in the story to watch for. And just kind of,
Yes, it almost
it's
gives
a
like
cue.
just turn that energy up just a little bit more. You know what I mean? So
Yep. All right. So, we've talked a little bit, we talked about how you're now out there streaming. So, who would like to kind of talk to the idea of where people can to see the unseen?
go for
Yeah,
it, Jen.
Yeah,
I
it's
can
you.
jump in on that. So it actually is a lot of places. We are able to be seen on Apple TV, Roku, Tubi, Amazon Prime. There's actually a plethora of them. We have sold in several countries. So we're in Germany, we're in Malaysia, we're in Mexico, there's a plethora. I have to get that list, but anywhere that there is streaming, we are there. DirecTV is another one. And it's interesting that you bring up the streaming because there's another film called Unseen that's streaming, and we keep getting confused. People keep getting confused with ours versus theirs. So we have these reviews where people are like, it's not scary, or the relationship between this character. And I'm like, those aren't characters in my story. So this is The Unseen with RJ Mitty. And they can be found on most streaming channels.
All right. So, kind of looking forward now, because I know I've already talked before, and people can look up our interview that we did on Sweet Molly with Ryan, Jennifer, and Rebecca about things that they've got coming up. So, I'm going to throw it out to the other three. Um, and I'll just let you know, Mark, that your camera is fuzzy on our angle. I don't know if it's something that you would want to take a closer look at, or it was cleaning your filters and now you're kind of blurry. But
Mm.
kind of going with Vincent, we'll start there. Do
Sure.
you, what do you have coming up that people can look forward to now that you're finished with the unseen?
Oh, I got a few things going on. First thing is that we just sold my second feature film, The Letter, and you can find that in around March, end of first quarter, and that all those streaming services are going to be taking that in. So we sold it to freelance media, so they're putting together a distribution package for us. So on the end of the first quarter, you're going to see The Letter, which is my second piece, and then I have a comic book that I wrote with Chuck Dixon, who's the creator of Bane and Punisher Warzone and a slew of other characters. But I co-created that comic with him, and that's coming out as well. And then at the end of the year next year, I'll be starting my third feature called The Nurse.
All right. So you got a lot of work coming out that people can watch for.
Yeah, oh yeah, and it's a big workload, but I'm very proud. I'm very proud of it.
And Sue, what do you have coming forth for people to take a look at?
I shot a pilot this fall, um, but I don't know. I think you should know, I think in January, if it's hopefully being picked up. But that I can't talk about. I like can't be crazy specific about. And I'm supposed to do a film that keeps. We're like we have money from Australia. It's kind of like a lot of international money, which is sort of interesting happening. Hang on a second. So it keeps getting pushed. So I hope to say I'm doing it in the new year and shooting in Australia. But, sometimes with these things, when I'm on the plane or maybe the first day on set, I'll like be certain that it's happening because it keeps getting pushed. So.
Okay. And just real briefly, Rebecca, can you remind people of some of the things that you've got coming up?
Oh yeah, sure. So fortunately, a lot of the things that are coming up, I can't really talk about as an actor. That's our play, right?
Yep.
But a couple things that are out now. A movie called Crust is out now. You can find it on Amazon to rent or purchase. I have another film called The Veil that's on Amazon or Tubi. Um, and then I have another film called Traumatica that's doing the festival run right now. So, and that one hopefully will be coming out sometime next year. Yeah, so those are some of the things that you can watch me in, and then also the unseen, obviously.
And now we're back to Mark. Hey, Mark, can you tell us some of the things that people can look for you in as that are coming up?
He's unseen
Sure.
right now.
I know he's unseen, but he's there.
Yes, I don't know what the deal is. Technology. I live in a haunted house, so weird things happen. I've got a movie coming out called Final Hour, where I play a man who's on death row, about to be executed, and he's confronted by a priest who is the brother of the woman I killed 15 years earlier. So it's a really intense drama. Don't know exactly when it's coming out next year, but it'll be at some point. I have a guest star role on a spinoff of Bosch on Amazon, a new show called Ballard that'll be coming out sometime next year. And then I'm in a really big film that I can't say yet that's coming out early next year that once it comes out, hopefully maybe chat again about it.
All right. I understand the whole thing about NDAs. So yep. So that works out great. So here's something, it sounds like there's a lot of thriller stuff, but this is a horror film. And I got a lot of people that, deal with horror here. So I want to ask, and we'll start since the two that have been quiet for a bit, we'll ask Jennifer to start. Why horror? What draws you to writing horror?
So it's interesting. A lot of my writing is more on the psychological thriller side. Crime drama, thrillers. I love mystery. I love whodunit. And I think that the horror element actually was encouraged by Ryan when I was working on it. Seeing a little bit more of that gore, or that more of the twist in the story that brings in that horror element. I'm not going to give away too much, but as Rebecca has already said, how she dies, we don't know. You got to watch it. But her character dies, right? And the way that she comes back and the way that the hauntings happen and the blood and things that happen really there is a really big crowd that likes it. And I think what was fun about making it is being on set and seeing the blood. I mean, there's a scene where she has a very bloody broken leg. And again, don't know how it happens. But what I do know is being on set, seeing it, I was like, oh, and I thought that was really exciting. And so I think there's a real kick for that kind of movement. And after going to FilmQuest, I think it's really exciting, actually. It's a lot of fun.
So she kind of threw your name out there, Ryan. What's your draw? Why push it into a horror direction?
Sure. So, I did not originally grapple onto horror when I was in my younger years, but uh, I talked myself through, oh gosh, of course, now the movie escapes me, but basically I ruined the movie for myself because someone said, you got to see this. And so I kind of, I'll use the term, broke my virginity on the genre. And now I enjoy most all horror. I would say more demonic horror is what I like. The slasher, blood and guts. It can be entertaining, but it's got to be in good taste. But one I wanted to try my hand at the genre. You tend to write or make what you have seen to do your own version of it, and in our research that Jenny and I did, horror is a genre that does tend to sell. It's a marketable genre. Of course, as we all know, nothing is guaranteed to be sold in the film business, fortunately or unfortunately. But it is a genre that tends to do better than maybe some others, and so we went down that route. And so the process began of what do we want to put in this thing, and the more gruesome you get, the tighter of an audience you have. So we wanted to keep it PG-13, maybe dipping into rated R. It's unrated currently, but yeah. So we wanted to do that genre and make a marketable genre at that.
And if I could piggyback real quick, both Vince and Ryan got me really into like The Conjuring. I watched Babadook. I really loved that. It was a big inspiration for me. And same thing with Hereditary. Those were, some of the movies that really inspired those hooks to bring into the unseen. So, yeah, that demonic approach or that, unseen, but, heard or the feeling, I think is really exciting to write about.
So now she's throwing your name out there, Vincent. What draws you to horror? And you're currently on mute.
Well, thank you. So I have a real keen sense of what kind of audience will react to, and boy, fear is really something. It really is an interesting emotion to try to elicit from an audience, and there's many types of fear. And what's really cool about the script and the story is that you've got all these different things that make each character kind of trapped in their own situation, and I thought that was a really fascinating aspect. You've got all these different people kind of afraid of each other, and as well as this kind of demonic force going around. So it was really fun to figure out that puzzle and try to give everybody that moment of horror in their own universe. So I thought it was it's a challenge, and that's what I like about horror, because people think it's easy, and I think it's one of the more difficult genres to be able to capture. So I had a lot of fun working with the team to try to build that out.
Okay. Now we'll go to some of the cast here. We'll start with Mark. What was your draw for horror? Or is it one that you just kind of got, eh?
Well, I've worked on quite a bit of horror films. For me, it's really the genre is less important to me than the characters in the story. Like in many ways, this film, if you remove the horror elements, it's just a really powerful family drama, right?
True.
And so that's
True.
really what drew me to it. I like a good horror film as much as the next guy, but I've also seen lots of really terrible horror films. You know what I mean? So, whereas this was a fun. This was a powerful story, and I really was drawn to the dynamics between all the family members. That's what I thought it resonated with me when I read the script. So that's what kind of said, yes, I should do this, more so than necessarily being a horror film.
Okay. How about you, Sue?
Yeah, I would say the same. I'm not I don't watch horror movies because life is scary enough sometimes. So it's like it's really hard for me. But and I would say like Mark, and I'm so sorry, that's my dog. But I was drawn to the character. It wasn't the genre. I did one other horror film, and I was very drawn to that character years ago. But yeah, I like characters that for me, it's really easy. Perhaps men will say this as well, but I will say certainly as a woman, one-dimensional characters. It's very common. And I'm very drawn, and I do play a fair amount of women who are not what they seem. Like I feel like I'm very often kind of a bad guy that doesn't seem like a bad guy. And I love doing those roles. So she is not what she seems. So that's what drew me to it. I love Chicago. I wanted to work in Chicago. I really liked the script, and the cast that I knew at that time. I really I didn't think I knew Vince was directing it at that point, but I definitely was a fan of the cast, the actors that were cast.
If I could jump in real quick, I will say Sue did a courageous amount of scenes. The courage that she showed in some of these scenes is really profound. Oftentimes we had to film her separately, of course, out of order, as most movies are shot. Um, but she had to summon some of the strongest emotions in the film, and often alone, without necessarily have already experienced the context of what's to come. I thought her talents in these specifically difficult moments were really something to
With
be. So
with
thank you,
that, I'd
thank you.
like to give a professional interjection and say during one of those moments that Sue had, I caught Vince watching the movie, and so I had to take over to be director and as well as directing my camera operator to make sure that the scene worked out. So Sue, thanks for making Vince watch his movie for once.
Yeah,
So you did a great
really,
job.
it really brought me to a very emotional place. I think that especially the stuff about domestic violence was a really it's a for a lot of people out there, it's a real scary thing. And for you to be able to portray those private moments were really I think something. I think it's easily one of the best things I've ever shot, with this team. So I feel very proud to be part of it.
I would say that in the auditions, I think, especially with Sue, what struck me is it wasn't a very one-dimensional audition whatsoever.
That's true.
I was absolutely drawn into the levels. I'm a very deep, leveling, when I write, I really bring a lot to these characters. There's a lot of trauma in every single character that's on that screen. And it's important because we all have our own stories. And you see all these shows and everyone's just very flatlined or they sound like each other. And that was something I really wanted to make sure we did not do, is these, very general genre tropes where you have characters that don't have those deep stories. And Sue really brought that into her audition, where there was such an emotional pain when we watched it. I'm like, oh my God. And we were drawn to that. And the same thing with Mark too, actually. With the anger and the hostility, there was more to it than just seeing an angry man at a dinner table. And there was a lot of depth, and that was really well shown. Like, it was really noticeable on camera as well. And I think RJ did a great job with it as well. And Rebekah.
But those two together, Mark and Sue, it was
The dynamic is incredible.
There was a particular moment, and I know they both know what that is, but I knew what the script said, but you're just never sure how that scene's gonna play out, and that was a good moment.
And what's also fun about this movie is there was some improv that was brought into it that stuck because it worked so well that everybody knew who they were in these moments and these relationships, that there were added ad lines that weren't in my script that Mark added that I then responded to, and it feels so real and it's really authentic. And I think that was what was really powerful about this piece.
I could just add, thank you for everything you said, Vince. And but I think that everyone in the cast had to go to a place like that in a different way.
Oh, yeah.
A safe space, like I would say, Vince really had a very created a safe space, and you felt you were being cared for. And I don't think, I'd love to say it's all, say that was all me, but no, it wouldn't happen unless you felt like you had someone there who wasn't going to judge you and was in your corner. And so I would deflect to you.
Oh, that's very kind, Sue. That's very kind. Game recognizing game. All good. Thank you.
So how about you, Rebekah? What's your draw to horror?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a huge fan of horror since I was like 11. I saw my first horror film, the It miniseries, at a birthday party. I don't know why, but her.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
At 11 years old?
Yeah, I'm about
That's
to age
wild.
myself, but back in the day when you went to Blockbuster and you rented movies there, I convinced her family to let us rent that movie. I don't know why they said yes. They must have not known. I don't know. And I watched it, and then I went home the next day and asked my family if they would take me to Blockbuster, and I asked them if they would rent me the same film because I felt like I hadn't really gotten to watch it because all the girls were like screaming and covering their eyes and like, and I was like, I gotta watch it again and like take it all in. And from then on, I've just been a huge fan. Like it's just been a part of my life. I never imagined being an actor in horror. That wasn't like because a lot of people ask me that, like, oh, is that why you do it? And that's not why initially I started doing horror. Initially, I started doing horror because that's what I booked. Actors, you audition at the beginning of your career. Or you still, I mean, it's still auditioning. What am I talking about? But and you just kind of take whatever you book. And those were the first like 3 or 4 projects I booked were all in the horror genre, all in like different subgenres, which was awesome. And I love it. And I probably till I don't act anymore, we'll go back to it because I feel like it's like Vince said, it's a fun challenge. It explores themes that you maybe not ordinarily get to explore. Or it always I mean, not always, but like a really good horror film has, good underlying a message like this film, like other films that are dealing with trauma or dealing with something in some way that's manifesting itself as a horror. Like I just watched, the Smile 2, for instance, and that's a beautiful metaphor for trauma and like what that looks like. Like the Babadook that Jennifer mentioned, like and The Sixth Sense is one of my favorite horror films. It's just like so brilliant. And as an actor, especially that's not like famous, we don't always get opportunities to explore these kind of characters. So for me, like much like Mark and Sue said, I'm always when I am looking at scripts, I am considering the character and what they're going through, and is this a story I want to tell, and is this a story I want to be a part of, and what does her life look like, and what can I add to it, and what haven't I done yet, or what can I explore, what would be a fun challenge within that. And it's rarely for me so black and white in terms of like, okay, this is the character and it is what it is. Like there's always so much going on underneath that's fun to explore, and that maybe I wouldn't get to do if it wasn't a horror film because they would have cast Julia Roberts or whoever, So I feel like this genre gives actors like us an opportunity to show our skills and to be able to act in ways that maybe we wouldn't get a chance to. So that's kind of why I'm drawn to it. And I also love to watch it. And I love to see the end product and how it all came together and did this work and how it worked. And because, when you're filming, it's not scary. It's not, sometimes you're on set, you're like, I don't even know if this is going to look good, and yeah, like, you're like, I don't know how this, like for quick example, another film I did called Traumatic, I'm supposed to be like cutting my arm in one of the scenes and like violently, and then I rip my skin off, and then on set, I'm like, this looks terrible. Like this doesn't work. Like I'm like trying to make sure the knife is like where the blood's coming out of the knife, right? And I'm like, this looks garbage. And then I see the film and I'm like, yeah, works great. So that's the other fun thing about doing horror is seeing how it's all going to come together, and like that silly little things, like somebody, offset, like making the candle blow out or pushing the door shut. But then when you're watching it, so scary on screen. So that's my.
But did you want to add something, Vince?
Yes, thank you for noticing that. I just want to say, Rebekah, not famous. I don't know. You're kind of the scream queen. I think you're definitely known, especially.
Hold on, Brad Pitt's calling me right now.
Oh, okay, yeah, exactly.
Hi, Brad.
Yeah.
Thank you,
But
Ben.
I think, the other thing that's really cool about working with you, being a horror fan, is you always push for the extra scare. And as for not having scary things on set, did you know that she can actually do something with her jaw? And I'm not going to ask you to do it, Rebekah, 'cause I know that's one of your special techniques, but it's actually incredibly freaky to see. She's able to, kind of like the gentleman that does all these different things like in Pan's Labyrinth. There's a physicality that she also brings to the characters that she plays that allows her to go into this deeper version of horror, like Pennywise, like Skarsgård, who does that thing with his eye. It's these actors, they bring these special things, and Rebekah always brings that extra special bit of spice. It's like, how can we make this a little scarier? I can actually contort my body like this. It's like, oh my goodness, yeah, okay,
Like, why?
do that, yeah, do that, but I don't, yeah, wait for the camera. It was a real treat to work with somebody that had that type of love for the genre too, which is cool.
Thank you. That's very kind.
Now I do have to follow up. What film did you make him rent?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, the It miniseries, the first one.
Oh, the It.
First.
Okay.
Yeah, the first, which,
With Tim
like
Curry.
nowadays, obviously, like probably looking, back, people are like, what? That's so silly. But I mean, or people still think it's scary. I don't know, especially if you're scared of clowns. But at 11, it's pretty,
Yeah.
Don't worry, you can be an adult and still be scared of clowns.
Absolutely.
I made my grandmother take them down in her guest room.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, well, and thank you for saying that. It's as an actor and then in horror, it's so fun to figure out how I can do it myself if I can. Like sometimes you're going to need a little CGI or a little extra to make it especially scary. But if I can do it myself, and a lot of times I'll like spend time in the mirror looking and like sounds so stupid, but watching and like seeing like, does this work? Is this scary? I don't know. It's just like a silly little thing, but it's fun to, as an actor, to figure that out too.
No, I appreciate you saying that, Rebekah. I dare I say, and maybe Vince, you'll agree with this. Making of a horror movie is sometimes ridiculous and humorous because the effects never look and sound the way that they're going to look as a final result. There's a ton of moments when it's just a random scream or a movement that just looks ridiculous on screen, but it's engineered to work a certain way in the final result. And so, I've always valued how those that did have a horror element associate with them. A lot of it was, Rebekah, of how you went the extra step to make sure that it dots all the I's and crosses off all the T's to make sure that it does go that extra mile. And so I had the fortune or misfortune of being a little too close during your contorting moments, and I was glad when that take was done. So
Yeah, for sure.
Hats off to you.
Well, thank you, Ryan. That was very sweet. I appreciate that.
So I'm going to follow up now with something a little bit more personal. And I already asked this question to Ryan, Jennifer, and Rebekah when we talked before. So I'm going to start with Sue and give the guys a moment to think about this.
Thank you.
What is it that drew you into becoming an actor in your case, or working in the film industry?
Well, my mom always says, and it started in theater, that she took me to the Nutcracker and I was pretty young, and that we're in the first row of the balcony and I was hanging over and she thought I was going to fall, like she was holding on to the bottom of my body because I was so engrossed by it. So I still do have a great love for theater, for live theater actually, and I do it sometimes. A lot of things have to be in place for me to do it. So it started there for sure. And I actually would say that's probably what I enjoy doing the most, although I do it the least right now. So, I think it started there. And then as time went on and I just, I like all mediums. I love acting. I love becoming someone else. I love doing things that people don't think I can do because we're all seen a certain way. So I love proving people wrong. And but in terms of the mediums, I think they all present a different thing. Like I love theater because it's live, no editing, that's it. It's takes a lot of chops, I think, to do that. I also think TV is really interesting to me because there's so much money on it at every moment. And there is a pressure on TV for sure to me. But I love that medium. And film, I love it for a different reason, because I've done more smaller budget films than larger, and it's a real boot camp to me. Like it becomes an ensemble quickly, and you're all moving towards a goal, and there's a stamina involved in it. And I love that. Like it's a community feeling. Like this film, I would definitely say, Mark and I talked for hours. So if we worked well together on screen, it's because we talked endlessly while we were waiting to work, and we really became closer. So that's my many-parted answer about acting. But I love all the mediums also for different reasons.
Mm-hmm. Oh, great. I understand that. So how about you, Mark? What was your draw to work in film?
I grew up in an environment where being an actor just wasn't something that ever crossed my mind. And I was in college, I was studying political philosophy, and I had to take an elective. And the only two electives that were available to me was art history and acting. And I was like, well, I'll fail art history, so I'll take this silly acting class. And we all know the theater kids, right, in school. And I love the theater kids, but they're out there a lot of times. And so I remember going to class the first time and just kind of walk in with a whole lot of disdain and thinking this is just going to be so stupid. And we're doing the initial classes. I remember the teacher assigned me a monologue, and it was the final monologue from Dr. Faustus. Now, I do this monologue in front of like 12 students in a classroom with fluorescent lights. There wasn't a stage, it was just a classroom. And I've never done crack, but I'm going to imagine that the way it feels when you do crack is how I felt inside when I finished that monologue. Like my whole body was just on fire. And I knew this is something I have to do. And so from that very moment, that afternoon in that class, I knew I'm going to be an actor. Now, unfortunately, I didn't learn how to actually become an actor for a long time. That was a process. But the falling in love with doing it for me was the doing it part. And even to this day, like I do not act so that I can see myself in movies and TV shows. And to be honest, I rarely watch myself in movies or TV shows. I act because I love the process of acting. So that's kind of what brought me towards making a career out of that.
Okay. And Vincent, I guess that leaves you up to say, what was it that drew you to work in film?
Oh boy, I gotta tell you, Dan, I need it. I need it like I need to breathe. I need it like oxygen. I feel like that's where my soul was born, on the film set. I just absolutely love every aspect of it. My kind of hero is Alfred Hitchcock, and he started the way I started, which is through production, building himself up as an assistant director. And assistant director, that was a big goal for me, even though my dream was to direct, because I knew Alfred Hitchcock got to learn the entire process by being an AD. He got to learn how to speak to each crew member, got to learn everybody's name and understand every department, and really just take in the entirety of a production. And then when he turned into a director, that became so vital for him. He knew how much time he would have. He knew what lens to use. He understood how long it took spirit gum to dry in the makeup room. He had all these like extra pieces of knowledge that really helped him create some of the most innovative films of all time. Um, so my goal was to be one of the greats, and my endeavor was to follow in the footsteps of one of the people I thought was great. And I've been on film set since I was 16 years old. I absolutely love it, and I do have a special place in my heart for the indie community, because we put it together with shoelaces and duct tape, and we still make it look like $1 million. And I love that puzzle of it. I really love the creativity. When we did that upside down shot, it was, I mean, you got to give hats off to Alex Cirillo for that. I mean, he had the forearms to lift that thing like this, and to keep it stable. It was wild. But I absolutely love feature films. That's where my heart is. And I think that's where great epic films are made. And I love going to the theater. Theater experience has always been my favorite experience. So I want to try to give that to as many people as possible, especially nowadays.
Okay. So we've been sitting here talking for about an hour now, so we're going to kind of just wrap some things up. Jennifer, please remind everybody again where they can find The Unseen.
Yes, you can check The Unseen for free on Tubi. You can watch us on Amazon Prime, Apple TV, Roku, DirecTV, all of the streamings. It's The Unseen with RJ Mitty. And poster sort of looks like that. There's Rebekah in the rain. But yes, those are the places. And we can also pop it on the screen if we need to, if Ryan.
Okay. And while she's looking that up, so we'll go around with the acting and Vincent as the director. Where can they find more information if they like your work and be able to follow it? We'll start, with Mark. Where can people find you on like maybe social media? And oh, I think you're still there. It's
Maybe the video's not working.
yeah, it just cut out with a press
The
button to
ghost in
repair.
this house doesn't want us to do this.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
definitely
the
ghosts there.
ghoster.
Uh-huh.
So we'll jump up to you, Vincent. Where can people follow you and your work?
Well, IMDb is always a great place to look for me and see what I got going on. And IMDb Pro has a lot of stuff that I have on the rise there. But I'm not really active on social media, so I just kind of keep my head down and focus. I'm definitely more behind the camera type of guy.
Okay. Now I'll drop back down to Mark. And we're going to allow Jennifer to share there. So, Mark, where can they find you?
My personal Instagram is W Mark McCullough. For those of you who are actors, wanting to learn about the business of acting or how to create a career as an actor, you can check out my website, workingactorlab.com. But I'm pretty easy to find. Just Google me. I pop up in a lot of places.
Okay. And Sue?
I would say IMDb Pro. I have a presence, a small footprint on social media. Not totally my thing, but I'm at Sue Cremin. So,
Okay. And Rebekah, please remind us where we can find you at.
Yeah, obviously IMDb is a good place to check out. And then I'm on Instagram at Becca K, BEKHK. I started my Instagram account when they first came out many, many years ago, and my name was taken. And so I was like, nobody's going to be using this Instagram thing. So I'll just like make a name up, and then now I'm stuck with it. So I'm 100% sure that most people, when I follow them, they're like, who is this? I don't even know who this person is. But I'm on there, and then I'm on Facebook, of course, and then Twitter, X/X, whatever you want to call it. I'm on there. Yeah, and then I'm sort of on Threads, but I haven't quite really like used it yet. So,
And Ryan, why don't you speak out for your production company where people can find your guys' work?
Sure. So I think Jenny was going to share the screen, but so for the Unseen itself, there's actually a lot more platforms. Lakefrontpictures.com/the
Yep.
Unseen, and it's actually slash a lot of other projects. So slash Pictures Only, Black Hatter, some of the previous projects that we've done. But this gives links, it gives all kinds of stuff to where you can watch the film. Feel free to peruse the site in general. It'll give statuses of our upcoming projects. We are working on a Christmas movie. We are working on maybe a short or two. We have one in the festival circuit. So lots of things coming up. They don't take 2 weeks to do. The films do take a while, especially feature films. It's basically running a business. But yes, lots of projects coming up. So lakefrontpictures.com/the unseen, which is what you're seeing right now. So hope to see you there.
Yeah.
We're seeing the night in the rain.
We are. It's the famous rain scene. This is part of the trailer that we have up, which you guys can find, as Ryan said. And then just another note, I'm Jennifer A. Goodman. I'm Jennifer Ashley Goodman on Instagram. I'm also on IMDb as well as an actress, producer, and writer.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining me here on Guildmaster Gaming. I know our audience is this is the type of things a lot of my people like to see is the light. I won't call this the hard horror because I've seen some of the stuff out of Northern Europe that is
Yeesh.
pretty dark.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely.
So we'll go with that. And I'll just throw one if you want. Anybody have any final comments they'd like to make before we sign out?
Last thing I'll say is that I'm grateful for the opportunity to be on this podcast with everybody. So thank you, Dan, for hosting it, and it's just great to see everybody again. And I had a really wonderful experience and a really wonderful crew to work with, and that's what really got us to the finish line. And thank you to Jen and Ryan for doing all that post work and getting it out into the audiences so everyone can see it.
I appreciate everyone's time. You all did a great job. We made a great film. You all know what you did, the contributions, and Dan, really appreciate your coverage of everything. And then I'm looking forward to seeing what you do with it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was it's always fun to get to, like Vince said, see everybody again and talk about the film and just, get back together.
It's nice to bring the unseen back to the scene. Unintended. But no, Dan, we really appreciate the opportunity to be here today, and again for sharing Sweet Molly as well. And we look forward to hearing and learning more opportunities to collaborate.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Guildmaster Gaming. If you like what you're seeing here, please like it, share it with people you know that would be interested in these films. Get out and support your independent filmmakers. There's a lot of great stuff going on out there. Even if you can't see it, if you see it on the little screen or on a big screen, it's really worth the effort. If you like this, please subscribe. It helps me to be able to do more of what we're doing here. Thanks again. We'll talk to you all again soon.
Thanks.
Thank you.